unseen terror of oak tree tally marks. In a secluded town surrounded by dense forests, Hollow Ridge was a place where the whispers of old stories were often exchanged in hushed tones. The town had a peculiar history, one that was tightly bound to an ancient oak tree that stood in the heart of the forest. The locals called it the tally tree because of the strange, unnerving tally marks carved into its thick bark. The tree had always been a mystery, its age and origins unknown. Over the years, as people passed through the town, they would come across the mark's countless tallies, carved with a precision and care that seemed out of place in such an isolated spot. But there was something much darker beneath the surface of these strange marks. It was said that every time a new tally appeared, an inexplicable tragedy would follow. No one knew exactly how the tree became cursed, but those who lived in Hollow Ridge kept their distance. It was said that the tree was not just marking time, it was marking lives. And the tally marks, growing ever larger and more numerous, served as a grim reminder that no one could escape its reach. The newcomer, Sam Matthews, had just moved to Hollow Ridge. His family had relocated from the city for a fresh start, hoping the quiet, rural life would help them heal from their troubled past. Sam, a teenager with an adventurous streak, didn't believe in the stories that surrounded the town. He had heard rumors of the oak tree, but to him, they were just that, rumors. On his first day at school, his new classmates warned him to stay away from the forest. "Don't go near the tally tree," they said, their voices low and uneasy. But Sam was unfazed. He'd heard about haunted houses and eerie legends before. This was nothing new. One crisp autumn evening, after hearing yet another tale about the oak tree, Sam decided to see it for himself. He slipped out of the house after dinner, armed with nothing but a flashlight and his phone. The town was quiet as he made his way through the winding streets, the only sound being the crunch of fallen leaves beneath his boots. As he reached the edge of the woods, the air grew colder, the shadows deeper. He could see the silhouette of the massive oak against the darkening sky. It stood alone, its gnarled branches reaching toward the heavens like twisted fingers. The tree's bark was thick and rough, covered in centuries of moss and weathered by time. And there they were, the tallies, perfectly carved, deep and jagged. There were so many of them, but some were faded, barely visible, while others were fresh and bold, as if they had been carved just days ago. Sam's curiosity got the better of him. He took a photo with his phone, but just as he was about to walk away, a chill ran down his spine. His screen flickered, and for a moment, the photo of the tree distorted into a horrifying imagedel, skeletal figures with hollow eyes staring back at him. In a panic, Sam turned to leave, but the woods around him seemed to close in, the branches swaying and creaking as though they were alive. He could hear the sound of something moving in the shadows, following him. He didn't dare turn around. The first whisper. The next day, Sam tried to brush off the terrifying image he had seen on his phone. He convinced himself it was just a glitch, a trick of the light. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He couldn't forget the whisper, the voice that seemed to speak to him from the depths of the tree. That night, as Sam lay in his bed, trying to fall asleep, the whisper returned. It was faint at first, like a breath against his ear. Sam, you've seen the marks. Now they've seen you." He shot up, heart racing, his breath coming in quick bursts. His room was empty, the silence deafening, but the air felt thick and suffocating. The whisper seemed to echo in his mind, repeating over and over. The following days were filled with strange occurrences. The scratching sound on the wall, soft at first, like nails gently tapping on wood, became more frequent. It started in the dead of night, a low, eerie sound that seemed to come from within the walls themselves. Sam would lie in bed, his eyes wide open, staring ceiling as the scratching continued. The worst part was that it wasn't just the walls. He began to notice the tally marks appearing on the surfaces around him in the windows, on his desk, even on the pages of his notebook, as if someone or something was marking time, marking his life. The curse unfolds. Desperate for answers, Sam visited the town library, hoping to find something that could explain the strange happenings. The library was old and dusty, filled with the scent of decaying paper and leather. He sifted through old town records and journals, finally stumbling upon a book written by a local historian. The book detailed the origins of the oak tree, dating back to the town's founding. It spoke of a curse that had been placed on the tree by an ancient, vengeful spirit that would return whenever the tally marks reached their final count. Each mark represented a life, a soul that had been claimed by the tree. As Sam read, the hair on the back of his neck stood up. The final tally was approaching. The tree was not just marking time, it was preparing for something worse. The closer the town came to that final mark, the more intense the terror would become. The whispers, the shadows, the things that moved just beyond the corner of his vision, these were the signs that the curse was working its way through Hollow Ridge. The shadow in the woods. It wasn't long before Sam began to feel the full weight of the curse. One evening, as he walked home from school, he found himself drawn to the woods again. He couldn't stop thinking about the tree, about the marks, about the shadowy figure he had glimpsed that night. The tree seemed to close in around him, their branches twisting like arms reaching for him. The wind picked up, and the once familiar path felt unfamiliar and threatening. Sam's heart hammered in his chest as he pushed forward, his breath shallow. When he reached the oak tree, he froze. The tally marks were glowing faintly, an unnatural light that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. The whispers began again, this time louder, more distinct. "Sam, Sam, you can't escape now." From the darkness, a figure stepped into view. It was tall, its face obscured by shadows, but its eyes, those hollow black, eyes pierced through the night, staring directly at Sam. The figure's mouth twisted into a grin, and it spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You've seen too much, Sam. You're already marked." Before Sam could react, the ground beneath his feet cracked open, and the figure lunged toward him, its long skeletal hand reaching out to claim him. Sam screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the darkness. The final tally. The following morning, the town woke to a new tragedy. Sam was gone, vanished without a trace. His parents searched frantically, but there was no sign of him, no evidence of a struggle. But those who knew the legend of the oak tree understood. The final tally had been made. The oak tree stood silent, its bark now covered in deep, dark tally marks. The town was left to wonder, who would be next? The curse of the tally tree had claimed another soul, and no one was safe. Years passed, and the legend of the oak tree only grew darker. The marks on its bark continued to multiply, each one representing another life taken. The townspeople lived in fear, knowing that they were only one tally mark away from becoming part of the tree's twisted history. But the tree, with its endless marks, would continue to haunt Hollow Ridge forever. The unseen terror of the oak tree had no end into its deadly cycle. The legacy of the tally tree. Decades later, a new generation of children would hear the stories of the tally tree. And just like Sam, they would be curious, drawn by the mystery, unaware of the curse that lay waiting. But they too would learn the truth too late. The oak tree would continue to mark its victims, its tally marks growing ever darker, feeding on fear and souls as it stood forever in the heart of the woods, a silent reminder of the unseen terror that haunted Hollow Ridge.